Exam Tutor Lectures, click on subscribe button and click on bell icon for latest notifications.
Hello everyone, welcome to Exam Tutor Lectures. In this video I will explain you one of the chemical bond, that is electrovalent or ionic bond. Let's do the quick revision of this type of bond. We know that the basic unit of all the matter is atom. An atom is electrically neutral. Why there is a need to form bond? Atoms, they have a central positively charged nucleus. What are present there in the nucleus? There are protons and neutrons. We know that neutrons, they are neutral, and protons, they are positively charged. So overall, the charge of nucleus, it is positively charged. And around this nucleus, there are different shells, and in these shells, electrons are present. These are electrons, and they are negatively charged. Now, how these electrons, they are arranged in these different shells? These shells, they have different energies. The shells, they have a different energies and different maximum capacity for the electrons. For example, this is K shell, the first shell. There is L shell, and so on. There are shells around this nucleus. For example, this is M shell. So K shell has a maximum capacity of 2 electrons. L shell has a maximum capacity of 8 electrons, and M shell has a maximum capacity of 18 electrons. If an element has a completely filled shell, that is, it has 2 electrons in the outer shell, K shell has 2 electrons, or L shell, whichever is the outer shell is also known as valence shell. And when the valence shell is complete, like if the valence shell is K shell and it has L shell, it has 8, or if it's M, 18, and it is complete, that element is known as inert. Means that is stable. So an element is stable only when its valence shell is complete. For example, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon and radon, these are inert elements, or they are known as noble gases. Why they are known as inert elements? Because their outer shell is complete. Overall, what is the need to form a bond? The need to form a bond is to get the inert gas configuration, that is, to make the valence shell complete. So how this can be achieved? By changing the number of electrons in the outermost shell. For this, to get the inert gas configuration, elements, they come together and they form different types of bond, like one of the type ionic bond or electrovalent bond. So what is ionic bond? It is the bond formed by the complete transfer of valence electron so as to attain the stability. Now this type of bond, like here what happens, the electron is completely transferred from one element to the other, and in this way they form ions. This type of bonding leads to the formation of two oppositely charged ions. What are those two oppositely charged ions? Positive ion is known as cations and negative ion is known as anion. Let's see through an example. What happens here? How a cation is formed. What is cation? Cation is a positively charged ion. Here what happens, in a shell there are 3 electrons in the outermost shell. 3 electrons. So to attain the noble gas configuration or the inert gas configuration, it has to lose 1 electron. To be an inert gas configuration, outer shell can have 2 electrons or can have 8 electrons. So what is more easy? It is easy to lose 1 electron rather gaining more electron. To make the outer shell configuration 8. So it will lose 1 electron. It will give 1 electron to some other element and form positively charged ion. Positive ion, and positive ion is known as cation. This is how the cation is generated. Similarly, an anion is formed. In anion what happens? It will gain electron. Anion means negative ion, and in negative charge there is a gain of electrons. Let's see more example. What exactly happens when there is a neutral atom? Either it will lose electron to form cation or gain electron to form anion. And for the stability, these cations and anions, they will come together to form a bond to attain overall inert gas configuration. Like this here, in the case of magnesium, the outer shell has 2 electrons. So it will lose both the 2 electrons to form magnesium ion and form stable electronic configuration in the outermost shell. Similarly, in case of chlorine, where the outer shell has 17 electron, where there are 17 electron, the outer shell has 7 electron, so it will gain 1 electron to form stable electronic configuration in the outermost shell and form an ion. So both these two will come together, because we know that unlike charges, they attract each other. Positive attracts negatives to form a bond. There will be the attraction between the positive and negative ion. So what they follow? They follow the octet rule. Elements tend to bond in such a way that each atom has 8 electrons in the valence shell, giving it the same electronic configuration as the noble gas. So they want to complete their valence shell. That is the only requirement for the formation of bond. That is because if the valence shell is complete, there will be overall stability of that atom. Let's see how ionic bond is formed. Example of ionic bond is sodium chloride. Sodium ion is formed. Sodium forms a positive ion, because if we see this electronic configuration of sodium, atomic number of sodium is 11. The number of electrons sodium has is 11. So in the K shell there are 2 electrons. In the L shell there are 8 electrons. 2 electrons here, 8 electrons here. But in the M shell there is a 1 electron. So which is the outer shell here? It is outer shell is M here. So to attain the stable configuration of the outer shell, there are 8 electrons here. To attain the inert configuration, it can lose this electron. It can transfer this electron to some other element. For the formation of sodium chloride, first let's see the configuration of chlorine. Chlorine atomic number is 17 and number of electrons are 17. So in the K shell it has 2 electrons, whereas in the L shell it has 8. And in the M shell it has how many electrons? 7. So it can gain 1 electron to attain the stable configuration of 8, and it can lose 1 electron to attain the stable electronic configuration 8. So that's what happened. 1 electron will be transferred from here, the outer shell of the sodium atom, to the outer shell of the chlorine atom. So this is how the ionic bond is formed. Okay, it will form by transfer of electron. It will form sodium ion plus 1. The number of electron it will transfer, that much will be the charge over the atom. Similarly, the chlorine will gain 1 electron, so there is a charge of -1 here, and it forms ionic bond. Sodium ion and chlorine ion, it bonds together, and that is known as electrovalent bond or ionic bond. If we see another example, that is of lithium fluoride. Lithium atomic number is 3 and the number of electrons are 3. K shell has 2 electrons and L shell has 1 electron. And fluorine, K shell has 2 electrons and L shell has 7 electrons. Same as in the above example. It will lose 1 electron and it will gain 1 electron and form lithium ion. This will form fluoride ion. They will bond together to form a ionic bond. So this was about the ionic bond, that positive and negative charges, they bond together to form an ionic compound. What are the features of ionic bond? Ionic bond, they form 3D ionic crystal structure like this. This is an example of table salt, sodium chloride. It is 3D structure and they are soluble in water as ions, and these ionic compounds like sodium chloride, you know that you can dissolve it in water. So ionic compounds, they are soluble in water. Because why they are soluble in water? Because as we dissolve them in water, these ions favorably, they interact with the water molecule and release sufficient energy to break away from the lattice. Okay, like this, if we dissolve this lattice in the water, these bonds will break away in the water. They will interact with the water, so they are soluble in water. What about the conduction of electricity? When they are in solid state, they do not conduct electricity. However, when they are in liquid state or when we dissolve them in water, they will conduct electricity. Like in the above feature, we saw that when we dissolve in water, the ions, they break free. Because of this free movement of ions, they will conduct electricity. Ions, they are free to move and they can carry the charge. Next is the ionic bonds. They are generally a lot weaker than the covalent bond. I will also upload a lecture about the covalent bond, and we will see that ionic bond, they are weaker than the covalent bond. Ionic compounds, they have high melting and boiling point because they have a strong electrostatic force of attraction. Why there is a force of attraction? Because unlike charges attract each other. So there is a overall electrostatic force of attraction, and this force of attraction is quite high. So that is why they have a high melting and boiling point.